Some sovereign wealth funds say their goal is to get the highest rate of return. What is your overall goal, principal goal?
We need to have higher returns, positive economic impact, being the engine of the economic growth in Saudi.
Now you have said, I think publicly, you would like it to be the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world at some point. When do you think you'll be able to get to $2 trillion?
It's very much achievable by 2030.
Early on, your tenure, I think, was a $3.5 billion investment in Uber. How does a deal like that come about?
It came about from an app that I used, an Uber. It was an amazing app.
Would you fix your tie, please?
Well, people wouldn't recognize me if my tie was fixed, but okay. Just leave it this way. All right. I don't consider myself a journalist, and nobody else would consider myself a journalist. I began to take on the life of being an interviewer, even though I have a day job running a private equity firm. How do you define leadership? What is it that makes somebody tick? We're here today with His Excellency Yasir Al-Rumayyan, who is both the chairman of Saudi Aramco and also the head of the PIF, which is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. So you have both jobs. How do you allocate your time between running the Sovereign Wealth Fund, PIF, and being the chair of Saudi Aramco? Doesn't that take you 80 or 100 hours a week to do?
PIF role is an executive role, while the Aramco role is chairmanship. I don't have the executive chairmanship role. So in Aramco, I focus on four things, basically. The strategy, the targets, the annual targets that we have, monitoring of the performance, and managing the actual board. While in PIF, I'm the governor there, although I'm a board member in the PIF board, but my role there is totally different. It's an executive role, and I'm there every day for a long number of hours, looking after our investments opportunities and looking after our current portfolio companies.
Okay. In August of 2015, you became the head of PIF. At what time? What size was PIF then in terms of the assets under management?
PIF was totally different than what it is today. So in 2015, the board was changed. It became chaired by the Crown Prince, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And we changed the strategy. So the assets under management then was something like $150 billion. Today it's over more than $325 billion.
You said that the Crown Prince appointed you to the position. How well did you know the Crown Prince before he appointed you? Did he know you well?
No, actually I didn't know him at all. I heard of him. No, I heard of him. I received a call. Before I took the post, I was a CEO of Saudi Forensic Capital. And at one stage, I turned around this company from a losing company to one of the most profitable companies in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East in investment banking. So at one stage we had like 41% of all investment banking activities. So I think the Crown Prince heard of me, and I got the call.
So you got a call to meet with him?
Yes.
So what was like an interview? He just said, guess what, we picked you and you have to leave your job and this is a better job? Or what did he say?
I thought it's going to be an interview, but it was like, here's what I want you to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and these kind of things. And even when he told me, when can you start? I said, yeah, I need maybe like 3 months. He said, no, it's 1 month and you will do it. And then the next week, I got another call saying you have to come immediately.
So what did you tell your family? You just got a new job or something like that?
You see, it's we're all very proud to be Saudis and to participate in the changes, the positive changes that the country is living and doing right now. I mean, my wife and my kids were younger then, but they all felt maybe this is the right thing to do.
Okay. Now you have said, I think publicly, you would like it to be the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world at some point, and you'd like it to get to $1 trillion.
$2 trillion.
$2 trillion.
Yes.
So when do you think you'll be able to get to $2 trillion?
The number looks really big because, the largest sovereign wealth fund today is about 1 trillion. We think that it's very much achievable by 2030. And I will tell you where the growth will be coming from. So number one is the performance, and we're doing extremely good performance. Number two is the assets that we're getting from the government, like different companies, we're becoming also a land bank for the government. Number three, cash injections that we're getting from the government, and we've been getting some. And number four is the recycling of our profits.
All those different things require a big staff to manage. How big is the PIF staff today?
When we started, it was 40 people. Today, we're more than 700. By year end, our target is to have more than 1,000 full-time employees in PIF.
And they will be all in Saudi Arabia?
The bulk of them will be in Saudi, but now we're opening up in the financial capitals of the world. So hopefully in the second half of this year, we will have our first office. It's going to be in New York. And potentially London also will be in the second half. We were also considering some coverage in Asia. So most likely we're going to have also an office either in China or Hong Kong or potentially even Singapore.
Okay. Some sovereign wealth funds say their goal is to get the highest rate of return, whatever they can do legally to get the highest rate of return, invest in the country, out of the country. Is your mission to get the highest rate of return, or do you want to, in fact, have certain goals like improving energy diversification in the kingdom or getting people to invest some money in the kingdom? What is your overall goal, principal goal?
Believe it or not, it's all the above. So we need to have higher returns, economic impact, positive economic impact, changing the diversity or improving the diversity of revenues. Also being one of the engine of the economic growth in Saudi. Even we look into renewables and how we lower the emission and all of these things.
As I understand, a principal goal of the Crown Prince is to make the kingdom less dependent on oil.
Absolutely.
So right now, I assume a very large part of your budget comes from oil.
Yes, it is.
And you would like to get it down to below 50% or some number do you have?
Currently, it's like 70%, and the non-oil revenue increased quite tremendously in the past 3 years or so. So eventually, we want to be less dependent on oil. Okay. And the reason being is the volatility in the oil prices. And the last thing you want to have a volatile economy, right? So the more non-oil revenue you have in the economy, the better sustainable and less volatile economy you will have.
One of the very visible investments that you made early on your tenure, I think, was a $3.5 billion investment in Uber.
Yeah.
And you're on the Uber board?
Yes.
How did a deal like that come about? Did Uber call you up, or did you say, do you think it's a good opportunity? And how does a deal like that come about? It
came about from an app that I used, an Uber. It was an amazing app, and I liked the service. Okay. An amazing disruptor. They came in, provided better service for the same customers for lesser prices. So it's just an amazing combination, an amazing formula. So there was one of the Uber executives visiting the country, and he was visiting me for something else. And I knew about the Uber. I asked him more about it. And they said, yes, we're considering a capital raise. And I asked the team to look into it. They loved it. It went through the whole governance structure that we have, and we have layers and layers of investment diligence and what have you. And we came to our investment committee, then to the board. They all loved it, and we decided to be.
So do you use Uber yourself when you're in the United States or in the kingdom?
I used to use it, yes, a lot.
And they must know who you are when you show up.
Maybe they do, yeah.
I think so. Another very visible investment that you made was a very large investment, I think about $45 billion into the so-called First Vision Fund.
Yes.
And so what brought that about, and are you happy with that investment?
The alignment of the thinking, that's what brought it. So I remember sitting down with the Crown Prince a number of times trying to strategize on what is exactly that we would like to be invested in. Of course, it's the future. So we said artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things. So these were the main themes that we would like to be in. Remember, 70% of our population is under the age of 30. So we need to have something sustainable for them in the longer term. And when I met with Masa-san for the first time, he was talking about the exact same things that we were looking for. So the alignments of the thinking is what drove us to have this mega partnership with Softbank.
So today you're happy with the investment?
It's up so far after like 2.5 years, about $9.5 billion. So it's fine.
So after you made a $45 billion commitment, did you get a lot of people saying, well, if you have $45 billion for him, what about $45 billion for me? Did you get a lot of those people calling you up?
Not a lot of people came in with a $45 billion proposition, but we have access to everyone.
You are the chairman, as we talked earlier, about Saudi Aramco, which is the largest publicly traded company in the world and also the largest oil company in the world. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's the largest company from different levels. Market cap, the profits that we're generating is second to none.
Let me ask you about another job you have. You are the chairman, as we talked earlier, about Saudi Aramco, which is the largest publicly traded company in the world and also the largest oil company in the world. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's the largest company from different levels. Market cap, the profits that we're generating is second to none. And the IPO that we had was the largest IPO in the world.
Okay, so you went public not too long ago at a valuation, if I recall, roughly $1.8 trillion, something like that.
It was, the valuation was 1.7.
1.7.
And now it went above the 2 trillion for a couple of weeks. And now it's about 1.8
1.8 trillion today.
Yes.
So no company is as valuable as that company.
None.
But it's traded on the local stock exchange in Saudi Arabia.
The Saudi stock exchange, yes.
Have you thought about listing it in New York or London or Tokyo or other places yet?
Remember, we only offered 2% of the company. So still 98% of the company owned by the shareholder, which is the government of Saudi Arabia. So in our program is to have multiple number of listings over the years. So we're looking into it to have more offerings. And these offerings could continue to be in Saudi. And if we have any good stock exchange that we think can bring some value investors to us, we will definitely consider it.
Now, many organizations now saying they want to be carbon neutral by a certain period of time because carbon contributes to global climate change.
Absolutely, yeah.
What is the position in Saudi Arabia? Do you want to be carbon neutral by a certain period of time, if possible?
Saudi Aramco been working in their mission for decades now. So we have one of the largest, if not the largest, production, but at the same time we have, as a country and as a company, one of the lowest emission for a good reason. We started early on to have more efficient. We have been working in Aramco for the past 84 years. The concession that we have from the government today is about 60 years. Unlike most of the other oil and gas companies, their concessions is between 5 to 10 years. So whenever we go to a site, to a well, we want to make sure that this well is big enough to produce more, and at the same time our depletion rate of these wells is very small. So some of the wells that we had 86 years ago or 84 years ago, still up to date, operational. However, having said that, oil is very much important. It's the cheapest, the fossil fuel generally, it's the cheapest energy source. Today you have over 1 billion people in the world don't have access to electricity. So you have to cater for those people. And that's why we think we should be more efficient, but at the same time, we shouldn't forget who we are and what we do.
So historically, Saudi Arabia was the biggest producer of oil in the world.
Yes.
Now, I think maybe the United States might be, or maybe Russia is bigger. But Saudi Arabia could produce more oil given all the reserves you have, but you're quite comfortable at the level that you're producing. Is it around 9 or 10 million barrels a day?
It's about 10 billion.
10 million
barrels a day.
So it's often said in the oil world that Saudi has the cheapest or lowest lifting costs, which means that you can extract oil more cheaply than anybody else because it's either right close to the surface or things related to that. Is that more or less accurate?
It's true. It's less than $4, $3,
right,
while the other companies' cost is between $20 to $50.
So in terms of Saudi Aramco, what are the biggest challenges you've faced as chairman there? Was getting the IPO done, I guess, was the biggest.
I've been a board member in Aramco for the past 5 years, almost. Then I was part of the IPO committee, and things were not going as I thought it should be going. So I had a number of discussions with the committee members, and I told them, we have to do it this way. And I had the same discussions with the government and the Crown Prince. And after a while, I was appointed as the chairman of that committee, the IPO committee.
Right.
And it was last summer. And we said we have to get the IPO done before the end of 2019. We got it done. That was a huge challenge. The valuation was amazing. The demand that we got was really great, almost 5 times the demand, the offer size. So that was the initial challenge.
What would you like people to know about Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia is progressing every day. And the progress that we are witnessing is amazing. Welcome to Riyadh. Welcome to the Future Investment Initiative 2019.
In recent years, you've instituted a conference in Riyadh, which is an annual event, not unlike Davos or the Milken Conference, where it's a gathering of the elites of the investment world, and they come at a conference that you sponsor. Why do you do that conference? Are you going to continue to do that?
We will definitely going to continue to do it. In fact, now the conference is transformed into an institution. So now it's the FII institution. And we've done it for the 3rd year in a row, and we will continue on doing it every year, and it's going to be all-round year conference.
Now, the Crown Prince announced a project that I assume that you're investing in, which is to build a new city.
Yes.
And is that something you're involved with as well, or some of the people you've invested with are involved with?
It's part of PIF, portfolio companies. In PIF, we have 6 different pools of investments. One of these pools is the giga projects. And NEOM is on top of these giga projects. We have another 3 giga projects, the Red Sea and Gidea, and also Amala, in addition to the other pool of the real estate and infrastructure.
For people who have never been to Saudi Arabia, you would say that what they should know about Saudi Arabia that they might not know is what? That it's different than they might think? The image of Saudi Arabia may be different than they think? What would you like people to know about Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia is progressing every day. And the progress that we are witnessing is amazing. We're opening up for tourism. The tourism sites in Saudi Arabia, it's like one of the best in the world. My last vacation with the family, we were like debating between skiing or doing something else, and we ended up in Al Ula during the holidays, and it was just an amazing location.
Well, when you're the head of your family and you want to go a certain place, do you say, I'm the head of Saudi Aramco, I'm the head of PIF, and this is where we're going to go? Or do the children get the vote?
That doesn't work with my wife and children.
Really? It doesn't work?
It doesn't.
So today, Saudi Arabia is a kingdom. There's a king and a crown prince and a royal family, just as there are in some other countries. So is Saudi Arabia governed much differently than other countries in the Gulf or something, or different than other countries in the Middle East?
And if you look at the Middle East, and if you look at the world, actually, we have the same system since 1930s, when the third Saudi kingdom came into existence. The good thing about the regime that we have in Saudi, it's progressing and developing over years. And that's why we have reform after reform. The latest reforms that we have are really good. It started in the economic and social, and now it's going to the security and political reform. So it's the same system that has been there for the past 80, 90 years.
So today, if you were looking at the future of Saudi Arabia, you would like it to be much less dependent on oil in 20 or 30 years than it is today, I assume. Is that right?
Yes.
And your other goals are to make Saudi Arabia, goals as a citizen of Saudi Arabia, is to make it more comparable to other Western countries in terms of the business community?
We're opening up Saudi.
More diversified.
Absolutely. We're opening up the Saudi economy, and Saudi is open for business.
Okay, so you're the chairman of Saudi Aramco. That must take some time. And
yes.
And then you're the chief executive of the PIF. That takes some time. But you must have a little time for one of your hobbies, which is golf.
Yeah.
You're also the chairman of the National
Saudi Golf Federation.
Saudi Golf Federation. So are there a lot of golf courses in Saudi Arabia?
Not yet. We have like 4 or 5 of them, the grass golf courses. But historically speaking, Aramco had about, I don't know, maybe 14 to 20 desert golf courses. Actually, golf started in the kingdom long ago, in the 30s, when Aramco started, and most of the American engineers who came in, they started playing golf, and it was just in the desert.
I assume the sand traps were big. It wasn't hard to get sand for the sand traps. No.
I'm really good in bunkers. I can get the ball out.
So now you are a 12 handicap golfer?
About, yes.
But you're going to get to scratch, or?
I don't think I have the time to go down to scratch.
But you've played in major tournaments, Pro-Am tournaments?
We had the second Saudi International tournament, which is part of the European PGA Tour.
Right.
Last year we had 4 out of the top 5 players in the world. This year we had also 3 out of the top 5 players in the world. Next month we're going to have the first Ladies European Tour in March in Jeddah, and it's going to be an amazing experience for us.
So if you're playing, you're the head of the chairman of Saudi Aramco, you're the head of PIF. When you have a putt, if it's 3 or 4 feet, do they just say they give it to you, or do they actually make you putt it out?
No comments.
Oh, yeah, okay. So by my standards, you're a teenager, you're very young, so you have a lot more energy than presumably I have, but are you happy with these jobs, and you're going to keep doing them for the foreseeable future? You're not going to say, I'm out of here in a year or 2 or 5 years or something. You love what you're doing, presumably. And
I'm so excited about this job, and it's the good thing about it. It's the impact that you're creating, and the impact that we're creating not only in Saudi Arabia, but the region and the whole world.